Hello guys. So today we will be looking at a non-rack to rack migration using DBCA. So I have a machine. This machine name is DT underscore VM, and I would be actually uh, migrating a non-rack database to rack setup. So there are two node rack setup which I have in my machine. So we have rack N1 and rack N2, and I have one machine where I'm running a single instance database. So let me just tell you what procedure we will be following to convert from non-rack to rack. So basically I have a database, so single instance database, and so this database, what I'll be doing is I'll be actually creating a template using DBCA on this same machine, and next I'll be copying the template files on rack node. So you can copy to any node. It's not specific like you will have to copy to node 1 or node 2. You can copy it to any node, and once I copy it there, I'll again use a DBCA to create rack database. So basically, you might be wondering like how can we use DBCA to clone the non-rack to rack database. So we have an option where you can create a template. So a template is basically like the entire structure of the database, and you can even include the data with the structure. So let's take when you are creating the template file. So basically by default it will have structures of all the tables and all the objects of the database, and you can optionally choose to also include the contents of the table. So let's take I have a table which is having like 1 lakh rows. So I can even have those rows in the template, so that when I create the database on the destination side using DBCA, I will first get all the objects and I will also get the data. So that is why for all the small scale databases, mostly DBCA can be used as a replication method or a cloning method rather than going for high end like RMAN or other tools. So let us start, and we will create a template on the single instance database, and then we'll copy those files from um, our single instance machine to the rack setup, and once we have it we will try and create the rack database using DBCA. So this is my machine, so I'll switch to Oracle user. Okay, so let me maximize. Okay, so switch user is Oracle, and let me check what is the database. Oracle SID, sorry. So there's no Oracle SID set, so let me check Oracle home. Okay, so my Oracle home is set, my SID is not set. So I have a test database on this server. So export Oracle SID equal to test DB. Now let me just try and connect to test DB. Okay, so database has been mounted. Now it should open up. Okay, great. So just to let you know, select instance name from v dollar instance. So my database name is testdb. So what we will do is we will create the testdb as a multiple instance RAC database from our this machine to another machine. So show parameter cluster. So can you see this is not a cluster database? So cluster database is false, cluster database instances is only one. So if it is false, that means we have only one instance, and that is why the value is 1. Okay, great. So I'm just exiting. So DBCA. Now we are going with the step 1 where we will create a template using DBCA for test DB instance. So on the first screen, go with next. Okay, so can you see create a database? 1 minute, guys. Okay, so sorry for the disturbance. Right. So on the second screen, go with manage templates and click on next. Now it says that select the template management operation you want to perform. So we want to create a database template. Okay, so we have three options in it. So from an existing template, so let's take you have a template already in place and you want to make a copy of the template, you can do that. Or you can create from a database which says structure only. That means you will have all the structures of the tables and other objects, but you won't have data into it. But there is one more option where you can create a template from the existing database using the entire data as well. So both your structures and data are encrypted or also kept in the template. Click next. Now at this stage it will ask you to select the instance name. So we have only one instance on the machine, that is testdb. So we'll go with testdb. So next, now you need to give a name to your template. So we will give it as like my rack migration. So my rack migration is the template name which I'm giving, and I'm going with next. So this is something important. Where is the location where your template will be placed? Is Oracle Home, Assistants, DBCA templates. So this is the location where you will have your template files. So basically there are three files which are created when you create a template. We will see that on next. So at this screen it will ask you like do you want to maintain the same file locations for your data files, control files and other files onto the destination server also, or you can even use OFA, Oracle optimal flexible architecture structure, so in which Oracle will decide like where to place the files and all. So it's better to go with the second option when your target database file structure is not same as your current file structure. So anyhow in our rack we are using ASM, so we don't have to go with the, we actually cannot go with the same file locations, we'll go with the OFA structure. And now once you select that one, finish. So it will tell you that it will confirm that it is about to create a template, and just click OK, and now your template creation will start. So basically once the template creation is done, as I said already, there will be three files which are created in that location. We will be copying those three files to any one node. So I have a 2 node rack setup on my virtual machine, so I'll copy to any of the node, and then we will again start off the other part of the experiment. Okay, so our template creation is completed. it will ask you like, do you want to perform any other operation? Just go with no. So as we know that the location of our template file is Oracle home slash assistance DBCA templates. Now I'll just do ls ltr my underscore rack star. So can you see there are three files that are created? One is DFP, one is control file, and DBC. I'm not recollecting what exactly is the full form, but these are the three files which are created. So now the task is to copy all these three files onto any of the rack nodes. So let me just start off from my rack machine. So I will start the node 1. You can actually start off any one node and convert the database, but it's recommended that if you have all the nodes up and running, it's easy and it's good actually. All the instances will be configured at once. So let this machine come up. So because of the memory crunch, I am not starting the second node because there will be again memory issue with the virtual machines. So for now I will start off only rack 1. I will copy the template files from DTVM this machine to rack 1, and once they are copied I will shut down the DTVM and then I will start off the rack node 2. So once it is done, we will see how do we convert it into rack node. So we are done with the first step. Next is we have to copy the template files onto the rack node. Okay, good. So our machine is up. So rack 1 node 1 is up. So let me log in. So now the task is to copy these files. So let me copy them. SCP my rack migration star oracle at the rate. I'll be copying to the Oracle user only. So 192.168.1. Let me check the IP address. So it is 1.50.50, and I'll copy it to slash home Oracle. Now it will ask for Oracle's password, so give the Oracle password. So good, almost done. So check if the files are copied to the Oracle user. So switch user Oracle. Okay, can you see my rack migration, all the three files? So all the three files are there, and I had already tried replicating initially using rack underscore template. So good. Now what you have to do is shut down this single instance database or in the entire machine so that you don't have memory crunch. In case if you have good RAM in your system, then you can proceed further. But for me, I'll just exit and switch off this. I'll shut down the machine, and simultaneously I will power on the node 2. So meanwhile what I'll do is once the template files are copied, you need to place these template files again in the Oracle Home Assistants DBCA templates folder. If you don't place it over there, your DBCA would not recognize the templates. So let us copy all the files to the location cp my rack migration, all the files to Oracle Home slash assistants DBCA templates. So just copy it there. So meanwhile, let's see our rack 2 is up and running. Still it's taking some time. Okay, so this machine is stopped, so I'll just close it. So it's taking still time to copy all the 3 files. Fine, so the files are copied. So just ignore the error that is because of this typo issue. Okay, now what you have to do is just type DBCA. Let us see if rack 2 is up. It is still taking some time. Now we are done with also copying the template files onto the rack node. So we are on the final step where we'll use DBCA to create the RAC database. Okay, so this is the normal error. As a root user, we need to give as xhost plus. So my machine has got very slow now. So I'm opening another terminal. So rack 2 is almost up. Okay, so just give xhost plus. So this command is to enable the graphical interface on the Linux terminal, and once again give DBCA. So before the DBCA runs, let me show you that a RAC database is running on the server. So okay, so as a root user, you will have to go to the grid installation location. So I have installed it in U01 app 1120 grid and go to bin location. Sorry. Now over here you have CRS CTL. Okay. So CRS CTL check cluster -all. So I have cluster which is running only on rack node 1. As I have started the rack node 2 recently, or just few minutes back, it will take some time for all the services to come up on the rack node 2. So we will wait till all the services on rack node 2 also come up. Oh, here it is. So now the services on rack 1 are online, and on rack 2 are also online. So on rack 2, they're still not able to communicate with the cluster ready services, which is CRS. So it will take some time to communicate with CRS. So it will take like couple of minutes. So it is able to communicate with cluster synchronization services and event manager service, but CRS takes little time. Our node 1 CRS is already online. Now, yeah. So can you see cluster ready services online on node 2 right now? So once your cluster is up and running on all the nodes, now we can proceed ahead and convert our non-RAC to RAC migration using DBCA. So on the first screen on the DBCA, it will ask you which type of database you want to create. Is it a RAC or a single instance database? So we want to create a RAC database. So I'll click next. Now go with the default option, that is create a database. Click next. Now under this template, can you see you will find the name of the template which you had created, that is MyRack migration. So this is the reason we place all the template files into the Oracle Home, Assistance, DBC and template location. If you don't place it, you won't get it over here. So I want to create a RAC database using this template. So we know that this template contains both the structure and the data. Now I'll click next. Okay, machine is stuck. Okay. So on the third screen, you have the configuration type. So it is admin managed and policy managed. So go with the default one. Now you can also give a database name, like what is the RAC database name you want to give. So it was testdb. Okay. So what I will do is I'll give the name as something called as RACDB. So RACDB is my database name. So what happens is internally DBCA will create instances like RACDB1 and RACDB2 for all the nodes or whatever nodes you have. So starting from first node, second node, it will create like DB1, RACDB1 and RACDB2 automatically, and your database name will be as RACDB only. And over here you will have to select all. So it says like select the nodes on which you want to create the cluster database. The local node rack n1 will always be used whether or not it is selected. So we want to create the instance on all the nodes. So I'm selecting all of them. Just click on select all, click next. Now it will ask you, do you want to configure the enterprise manager and all. So for now I don't want it. An automatic maintenance task, let it be, or else if you want you can just uncheck it. So for sys I'll give both the accounts the same password just for demo purpose. If you have other password, just keep entering them. So it will warn you. I'll go with yes. Okay, now it will ask you the storage type. So it is by default ASM. So you also have an option of cluster file system if you have it. So but we are using ASM, so I'll go with ASM. So once ASM is chosen, by default it will take the ASM name, whatever the storage name you have configured. So on my system it is plus data. So whenever you see the plus symbol, it means it's an ASM disk. So or ASM storage. Click next. So under this ASM storage, automatically Oracle will create plus data slash the database name. Understand ASM is totally OFA, like optimal flexible architecture. So which means Oracle will automatically do the naming conventions and it will automatically handle the names of the files and the locations. So you don't have to worry. So even you can specify a flash recovery area under the ASM storage, and you can enable archiving. Click next. So if there are any scripts you want to run while you are upgrading or migrating the database, you can choose them. I don't have any. So memory and all, I'm keeping it default. Next. Okay, so we are almost done. I'm clicking next. So I want to create a database. Finish. So look at the summary. So my global database name is RACDB, which I want to create. My database configuration time is admin managed cluster database. Node list is RAC N1 and N2. So what would be the SID list? That is RACDB1 and RACDB2, because my database name is RACDB. Management option type none, storage type ASM, and memory configuration type AMM, that is automatic memory management. So this one, if you scroll down, can you see the recovery destination is plus data, and your DB create file destination is plus data, which means OFA is pre-configured. So for OFA to work, your this parameter should be set by default. Okay, so these are the, can you see OMF? OMF is Oracle Managed File System. So OMF underscore system underscore data file. So these are the names that Oracle will internally handle. So just click on OK, and now your cluster database creation will start up. So once it starts, uh, you might see some error like listener is not configured or something like that. So do not worry about it. That's not a major issue. In case you want to be more precious about errors or do not want to see that error, just configure a listener with the name of your database so that you don't find any issue, and the creation would go very smooth. So once the cluster database creation is done, we will log into the cluster database. We will see the properties and we will try to log in from both RAC node 1 and RAC node 2. So this will take quite a long time. Should not take more than like 4-5 minutes. Okay, it's about to complete. It's 85% done. Okay, so finally the RAC database conversion is completed. So this is the final message from DBCA stating like database creation complete. For details, check the log files. At you can check the log file also. So you have database information. Global database name is RACDB. System identifier is also RACDB, and where is the SP file regarding this RACDB, that is on my ASM. And let us go and log into the cluster database and see if it has been really created or not. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll close one window. Okay. So let's check what is the Oracle SID. This RAC1. So we will export it to Oracle underscore SID equal to RAC DB, and you need to give the instance. You need to export the instance name, not the database name. So now if I say SQL plus slash assist DBA, great, it's connected. So select instance underscore name, comma instance underscore number, comma open mode from v dollar instance. 1 minute, guys. Okay, so sorry that open mode will work on the database. So let us select instance underscore name comma instance underscore number from v dollar instance. So it's my RAC database 1 and instance number is 1. Okay, so select database underscore name comma open mode from v dollar database. Can you see the open mode is read write? So what we'll do is, let us try to connect the second instance from the rack node 2 and see if my node 2 is able to connect to it or not. So with these two machines running, I have a memory crunch. So if I have a third machine that's running, it will make the entire system very slow. So it's coming up very slow. So first we will check if all the cluster where services are up and running on node 2, and then we'll try and connect to the database. So to check the services, you'll have to go to the grid location as the root user, app 1120 grid, and the bin location under it, and then crsctl check cluster -all. So on both the rack nodes, my services are up and running. So now I'll switch user to Oracle, and I will export the Oracle SID equal to RAC DB2, because that's the instance name which will be running on my rack node 2, and SQL plus slash assist DBA. So meanwhile, I'll also open up a terminal and let's check if the database is already running. ps-ef grep pmon. So can you see my rack db2 instance is running, test db2 instance is running, and also my ASM instance 2 is also running on this node. Okay, so select instance name from v dollar database, sorry, v dollar instance, that is rackdb2. Great. So show parameter cluster. So can you see my it is a cluster database? True. Cluster database instances, it is 2. That means this is the second instance. And similarly, let's check over here. Show parameter cluster. So it's 2, and it says like there are 2 instances in the entire cluster. So this is how you convert a non-rack to rack database using DBCA. There are also other methods like rman, rconfig, and some people also use export import. Some also use restore and recover methods from cold backups or hot backups. So there are different methods, and I would recommend this method only when your database size is pretty small. Let it be like around, or I would also suggest to go with this method only when your database is anywhere around below 100 GB, because above 100 GB to take a lot of time to convert. So if your database size is above 100 GB, I would suggest to go with rman. That's the preferred method, and in my next video I will come up with the RMAN migration of non-RAC to RAC database. Till then, goodbye.